Yeah, I'll stay here in my backyard, go with the New England Patriots. I
Ooh.
don't think that they had a particularly impactful draft from this standpoint. I don't feel any different about them than I did going into it than I do going out of it. I don't feel like they've gained much ground, if any, in the rest of this loaded AFC East that now has Aaron Rodgers on top of Josh Allen and an emerging Miami team. Christian Gonzalez, it was great that he was able to fall to them at number 17. He fell to them at number 14. And we're able to take him a few picks later. That's going to be a great pick for them. Bill Belichick's every good Patriots team has a shutdown corner, whether it had been Stephon Gilmore, Darrelle Revis, go all the way back to Ty Law. This guy might have that potential to be that number one corner. I mean, there were talks of him maybe going in the top 10. The fact that he was there at 17 was interesting. Keon White's another guy that was possibly a day one pick, fell to them at day two. But one of the big things that I thought this Patriots team needed, other than to address some things on the defense, particularly a number one corner, was an offensive tackle. They have nobody really signed going into 2024. All these guys that they have, whether it be Trent Brown, Riley Reif, all of these guys are signed through 2023, and that's it. And Isaiah Wynn's still out there on the free agent market. There is nobody to protect Mac Jones for the long term. And the fact that they didn't take a quarterback in this draft leads me to believe that he is going to be their guy going into 2023. You're putting him in a position to succeed because you finally gave him an offensive coordinator. You made some moves in free agency, but you didn't really go as far as I thought you could have by getting an offensive tackle or getting a top-tier receiver on day two.
Yeah, really well said. In doing these real-time grades for the draft tracker, I was like bumping them down like a half a letter grade each time because I was like, why is there not offense being picked? They didn't pick anyone on offense until round 4, Jake Andrews, who I did like out of Troy, a center. Like I just felt like they needed more explosiveness, and even signing Juju Smith-Schuster, he's not really an explosive player at this point. I like Kayshon Boutte in the 6th round. The small receiver, Demario Douglas from Liberty, kind of feels like that old school Patriots, nifty slot receiver. I just felt like there should have been, especially like Tyler said, inside the division with the teams that can score points, Buffalo, the Jets, and the Dolphins, you need to be able to be more dynamic offensively, and they had a chance to do that with how many picks they had. Kind of shied away from it. I will say, though, the Patriots always pick a mid-round offensive lineman I love. Joe Thuney's one of them. Hajolte Froholt from Arkansas didn't really turn out. I think he's with the Browns now. Loved him coming out of Arkansas. Sidy Sow from Eastern Michigan. I think he's going to be that next Michael Onwenu type, another one, 5th-round pick, who completely overlooked, weird name, no one knows how to say it, and will be a very good player in New England. Yes, they probably needed offensive tackle, but I think to continue to fortify the interior of that offensive line with Mac Jones not being the most mobile quarterback, I think was actually pretty good drafting. But the punter, trading up for a kicker, the punter, I do tend to agree with Sully that it wasn't an absolutely brutal draft, but it didn't really move the needle when it needed to be moved in this AFC East.
Well, Billy asked in the chat, when was the last time that the Patriots drafted well? What do you think, Sully?
They always have weird drafts. That's all I just wanted to say on that. Tyler, go ahead. You're the Patriots guy.
No, I know. I think you have to go back a long ways. I mean, even the last few years, it's been better coming away with guys like Ramondre Stevenson, obviously, Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, even like they've been able to have a few hits. Kyle Duggar is someone who I think they've really hit on, and that was kind of an obscure pick in the 2nd round for them. But man, when you say a top to bottom draft, I mean, I think you have to go all the way back. What is that, 2012, where they got Dante Hightower and Chandler Jones in the 1st round? That to me is probably maybe the McCourty, Rob Gronkowski draft. But that's how far back we're going. These guys are all, half of these guys I'm talking about are retired. So, it hasn't been good. And it's part of the reason why they are where they are right now.
Yeah, I'm cheating right now looking on their draft history on Sports Reference. 2012 was pretty good with those two at the top. 2016, Joe Thuney, Jacoby Brissett, Landon Roberts, Ted Karras. That was a pretty good one. But of late, even when they're bigger draft classes, there have only been, Damian Harris here, Jarrett Stidham. It's been kind of tough sledding for the Patriots. And I agree. It's was easy for the Patriots. We didn't realize even at the end of the Tom Brady era that they weren't really drafting well because he covered up so many of those flaws. But now we're kind of seeing that without that greatest quarterback of all time, that you certainly have to hit on more of those picks. We'll see what ultimately happens with this draft and last year's draft, but on paper, going with the kicker and the punter again, trading up for those guys, didn't love it. But I do like that they selected a lot of picks. Like, you need a lot of roles at the table if you're just going to say, hey, look, we're only going to hit on 20 or 30% of these guys. They made what, over 10 picks in this draft?
Yeah, it seemed like they had 10 in the fourth round alone.
Yeah, 13, I think. So I like that side of it, but it is seemingly becoming a trend that the Patriots have these obscure drafts. And I think it comes from like Bill Belichick saying like, what, we have like 100 players with draftable grades. I always wonder, how are they making all these picks later? Because they usually have a bunch of those day 2 and day 3 selections.
Is this going to be a big part of Bill Belichick's legacy, right? One of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach of all time. Not a great GM, not great at drafting. Is this become part of the conversation with Bill Belichick and his inability to draft well?
Yeah, I do think that there's part of the arrogance is not the right word. That's a little too harsh of a word, but I do think that there's a cockiness that, oh, well, you know what? He's kind of a B player, but I can coach him to a B plus. And he takes the low floor, high floor, low ceiling guys, and he feels like he can coach them up. He doesn't necessarily take those home run swings that have low floors that completely bottom out. So that, to me, that's kind of been the issue for him. He's relied a little bit too much on his coaching and not really trying to get that top tier talent.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to hurt his legacy that much, but I do think it is important to point out that despite his defensive genius over, 4 decades now, greatest coach in history of the league, I think unquestionably, and he's done so good, trading players at the end of their prime and getting good return on that. I do think we have to point out that the drafting history, any of the skill position players, I really think past Rob Gronkowski early in the draft have not been very good. That's just part of, I think, the story of Bill Belichick. But I don't think at this stage, with how many Super Bowl rings he wears, that it hurts it that much.